The Oviraptor had a new ability added in Ark Survival Ascended, where it can now collect both unfertilized and fertilized eggs off of the ground within a certain radius, depending on its melee stat. This made the Oviraptor become a highly dependable addition to the breeding process that made many Ark players no longer need mods to assist with breeding. This change was welcomed wholeheartedly by the Ark community, me included. When Scorched Earth dropped, an oversight or decision, I'm not sure which one, was made to leave the Oviraptor out of Scorched Earth, as it never spawned on the map to begin with. So yeah, I don't know if that was an intentional thing or if they just, you know, did it not really thinking about it. That's, you know, fine either way. It's whatever. It's just is what it is. But yeah, that's left a lot of Ark players, myself included, with a large hole in our breeding process that we have now become to be dependent on, like incredibly dependent on. Fortunately, there are ways for us to get the Oviraptor to spawn on Scorched Earth. In fact, you can make any creature spawn on any map. I'm going to show you where you can learn how to do this, as well as how I was able to make this work. I won't take credit though, that should go to the Reddit post I found this on. I'm not going to lie about that. I am no genius with this stuff, but I do know how to use Google. I found this solution, yeah, and it saved me loads of time working it out in the INI config. I could have done it, but like, it's just like, why do that if someone's already been the genius? So thank you to whoever that was. I will be putting a link in the description for what that post was, by the way, so you guys can go to that and shortcut all this if you want. So anyway, just to show you how it's all done, guys, if you do use the link in the description that takes you to the Ark Wiki, you will be taken to the page of server config, and it'll show you how to configure the INI files. So this will be similar to single player, just locate the same files in your save directory. So what you want to do is, well, as you can see, there's loads of confusing configuration here. What I want to do though is simply go through the components on how to make an Oviraptor spawn on Scorched Earth. We're not going to go through like everything. The command we're interested in though is the config add npc spawn entries container. And there are a few components we want to take into consideration on that command. So I'm just basically going to break this down for you guys. The first one is spawn class, and this tells the game what container you want the creature to spawn in. So in simple terms, it's basically like what area. You can find the list of containers here in this link. It says, it basically saying spawn entries. So yeah, go over to that, and on that, you're going to see there are two tabs at the top. So there's one for Ark Survival Ascended and one for Ark Survival Evolved. For Ark Survival Ascended, you really should use the new section, because you have no idea if the Ark devs have changed or not changed spawn containers. So, you know, it's a lot safer to use the new game. As Scorched doesn't actually exist in this new section yet on the wiki, I did a comparison on the island map, and I could see that between both the old game and the new game, the spawn containers looked pretty similar. So I just assumed for Scorched Earth it pretty much would be too. So yeah, I ended up referencing Ark Survival Evolved in this case, but not recommended forever. So yeah, in the list of the spawn containers, you're going to see a long list of different areas, and it might make a little bit of sense to you once you sort of understand. It's got like the Badlands, the canyons. It's sort of just like areas, but there was one in the list that really did catch my eye, which was Scorched Earth Dino Spawn Entries Easy Mode _C. Now that one basically has a heap of creatures in it that I know spawn everywhere around the map, or like in most spots. So think of that almost like the starter container that, you know, you got the Morellatops, you've got like Jerboas and Raptors and just stuff you're going to find pretty much everywhere. So yeah, that's the one I realized is probably the right one. And then I went back to the Reddit post and noticed that they used that too. So I decided to go with that. The next entry is a spawn name. So basically what that means, I think, is just a reference. It's basically like, what do you want to call this bit of config you're putting in? Like, you know, so I just went simple and called it Oviraptor, because that's the whole point of what I'm trying to do here. The next entry beneath that is entry weight. So what this does is it tells the game how much to prioritize spawning this creature over other creatures. So if you wanted a guaranteed spawn, you should set this higher. I haven't really mucked around with trying like extreme numbers or extreme little numbers, but basically I knew I wanted them to be uncommon. I don't want them, you know, spawning freaking everywhere. So what I did was I left the value in that I found on the Reddit post, which seemed very reasonable, which was 0.0845. So it's less than 0.1% chance of that creature spawning in that container. Now, keep in mind though, that's like across a whole map, right? So that's a big spawn area for this particular container. Like if this was just a tiny mountaintop or something, and you were trying to get a giga to spawn, you'd probably set that higher because, you know, you don't want it to be extremely unlikely in a very small area that something will spawn if there's only so many things that do. Whereas this is just such a big sprawl of creatures, I can set this lower because I'm probably still going to get lots of them. So the next one is NPCs to spawn. So this is actually where you tell it what creature you want to spawn. So, you know, I want the Oviraptor in this case. So basically what I've done is I've gotten the blueprint path for that. It was all in the Reddit post as well, of course. So I could just, you know, I have copied some of that config, but I've actually gone through the thought process as to what I want. So yeah, the full blueprint path is apparently required. That's what that post refers to. The person who tried it initially tried it just with the creature class ID, I think it is. And that is just like a shortcut. That's supposed to work, but it didn't seem to work for them. So maybe it's got something to do with the fact that you need the full path because it's from a different map, because it doesn't naturally spawn here. I don't know, but that's just my assumption. To find the blueprint path, you can use this link shown here, which, yeah, that goes across to the page that contains all of the creature information, including IDs and blueprint paths and everything like that. Yeah, you can basically go through and find the creature you're looking for. The Oviraptor is in there too, if that's specifically what you're trying to do. An advanced option as well, which, you know, I was in the Reddit post, which I did decide to keep in, which was a manual spawn point spread radius, which seems to allow you to set the distance allowed for the initial spawn location. So from the initial spawn location. So basically, it's like if there was a particular pinpoint on the map where that container is, what this does is it says, how far can I spawn this in around that pinpoint? So as far as I understand, someone can correct me in the comments if they think I'm wrong. But, you know, in this case, the Reddit post had it set to 3000, so I kept it at that. I don't really know what the distance measurement is in Unreal Engine. I don't even know if this could be like foundations or something in the game itself, but I just assume it's a decent distance because it sounds like a lot. So yeah, we're going with that. The next entry below that is NPC spawn limits. So what this is it basically tells this creature, again, so you have to list the creature blueprint path again, and then you put a limiting thing on it. So I don't know if there's any other options. I haven't looked deep enough, but the one that seems to be the common one and the one I've used here is the maximum percentage allowed to spawn. So what that means is overall in the container that you're spawning it in this case, we're using the easy mode one, which is everywhere. How much of the total percentage of creatures are you going to allow this creature to spawn in? You could use this with a variety of use cases, right? Like you could go Pegamastax, Microraptors, put that down to like 0.000.1. They're not gone, but they are like incredibly rare to spawn. So you could do things like that. Or you could, you know, use that to set the weight correctly, you know. So what that means is like, if I was to set this to say like, I assume like 50%, right? That means that Oviraptors could fill up potentially 50% of that spawn container. It doesn't mean they will, because it's factoring in a lot of different things, but it means that it can be up to 50% of the limit. So that means across the entire map of this easy mode container, which is where all Morellatops, Raptors, Jerboas spawn, 50% of those creatures now could end up being Oviraptors, and that sounds like a massive overspawn problem to me, so don't do that unless you're trying to be funny. Like, you know, if you want to spawn dodos across the island, make it like 100% of every container or something. I don't know. There's so many use cases, but yeah, like I've done what the Reddit post did again, because all those numbers and that person who posted it seemed to have the most reasonable config for it. So it was 0.05%, which once again, it's less than 1%. It's like half of 1%. Sorry, less than 1%. That's correct. Yeah. I'm struggling with math. You can screw around with all that, you know, try to think about this in your particular use case. Like if you're trying to make gigas more common on the island or something like that, you know, or other creatures, if you're trying to do this way later and there's a ton of other not modded creatures, rare creatures you want to spawn, whatever, you know, that's pretty much it. So with all that in mind, all of those different factors and parts of the config, the entire command ends up looking like this. In my config, I have it set as one line, and it's basically what it is it's put into the game.ini file. You can find that within this location in your save directory. So I can't tell you where that is on your computer. or your server. It really depends. Like if you're using like a ShADDow one or something, probably a little bit easier to find those config files in the console somewhere. But yeah, like I know where it is on my server in my single player, but you guys just basically substitute wherever you've got your ARC file saved to where, like, you know, where it is on your computer. So yeah, anyway. So cool. All right. So now I just need to do some testing. So as you can see here, I've just run a list dinos command in my single player game. And Oviraptor is not currently a list in the list of creatures that are spawning. Keep in mind, this isn't a server, so I can't see everything around the entire map right now. It's really just like with what's around me. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just run a destroy wild dinos command. Now that I've done that, you can see that one Oviraptor has already appeared with one spawn. So that's good. That means it's worked. I don't know where that is. It also says it's latent, which I think might mean it's not close by. Like maybe it's outside of render distance. So maybe because I'm forcing the spawn, it does actually add it to this list in single player. I don't know how that works. I'm no expert. You guys can maybe test that for yourselves. But so I'm gonna see if I can find one, guys, and I'll show you when we do. And with the help of our trusty finder mod, you can see here there is an Oviraptor who has spawned in level 95 on Scorched Earth towards Red Ob. How good is that, guys? It has worked. Okay, guys, if you did find this one helpful at any point in time, I really would appreciate if you can go ahead and hit that like button. It really does help me out. It also just tells me I've done something right and helps us sleep better at night. Plus, you could always consider subscribing and, you know, keeping across all of the Scorched Earth videos. I'll be using these guys in. Oh, so good I got them spawning. But yeah. Yeah, I hope this has been like super helpful for you guys. I haven't really done one of these before, but yeah, I've certainly enjoyed it. So let me down below what you thought, and yeah, I'll be seeing all of you guys in the next one. Bye for now.